Well, welcome back to another edition of 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse, and this shitty chair is going. I gotta do something. Why do you gotta pump up a chair and it fucking sinks down to nothing? Damn. Fucking horrible. I had a request though. Someone asked if I would talk about Faces of Death, the video phenomenon. Well, Faces of Death, wasn't only a video phenomenon. It actually ran theatrically. It ran at the Liberty on 42nd Street. I think it only ran a week though. Not 100% sure. I had a times table, but I know it ran at least a week. And I actually have a Japanese press book somewhere that I was looking for that I misplaced because it ran theatrically in Japan. I mean, that's a wonderful country. It's where, E.T. and Cannibal Holocaust opened up on the same weekend, and Cannibal Holocaust outdrew E.T. Forgive me, I'm indulging myself today. May as well start the week off right. I mean, last week was fucking horrible, but I'll get into something about that later. But anyway, of course, let's face it, Faces of Death is a fucking Mondo movie. And this is the one that started it all back in 1963. Mondo Cane, presented by Jerry Gross and his Times Films. So, yeah, it's nothing new. It's been around for a while. Of course, Mondo Cane spun off how many fucking dozens of Mondo movies. Mondo Cane 2, Mondo Topless, Mondo Fruto, Mondo Mod. I mean, unbelievable. So this sort of falls into the same realm, and like a lot of those Mondo movies, it's full of fake shit. I'm sure the animal cruelty is wrong because we're not kind to our animal friends, which it really pisses me off. But Faces of Death became a video store phenomenon. And actually, I think it spawned like 5 volumes. It was originally out in a big clamshell box. I believe it was Gargoyle Video, which was a subdivision of MPI or something like that. So, yeah, this was the big thing that kids were renting, and this also started a little bit of an outcry, I believe, because, parents would walk in and, here's a monkey getting its brains sucked out or whatever, and the fake guy getting his arm torn off by an alligator, and the execution, and actually I stopped short when we were going to take this stroll through the cancer ward, because there's certain shit, as a cancer survivor, I really don't need to see. So, it went on for a while, and the weird part was it spawned its own little fucking horrible fucking offspring. Like there was something called The Many Taboos of Death, Volume 1 to 12. There was Death Faces. There was Traces of Death. There was, going back theatrically, Savage Man, Savage Beast. There was another one called Dying the Last Seconds of Life 1 and 2. And in Dying the Last Seconds of Life, what they did was, and this will just show you how fucking bullshit all these are, they took the cannibal footage from Jungle Holocaust, Last Survivor, whatever name the film was under, and lifted some of the cannibal scenes and some of the animal killing scenes and basically hit the film with sandpaper and passed it off as found footage from explorers that were eaten by cannibals. Yeah, sure. Okay. So, we had all that wonderful stuff. And then I think it was taken off the market, but when I was working, I don't know if I was working at Liquidators when he got it. Norm got these things in, and they were obvious bootlegs, and they were floating around. I think something was going on. They wanted them taken off the market. I could be wrong, but I think it got to the point where, with the kids renting them and shit like that, they really wanted them taken off the market. They sort of vanished for a while, but then, of course, hey, Norm's going to make a buck. I could also throw in a bad Norm story here, because Dave Phillips wanted one about Norm's bad deals. I was in, shipping and shipping the adult stuff and receiving the adult stuff. So certain people, I took care of. I wanted to fill their orders personally because the stock boys would just throw in any piece of shit. Plus, some of these guys took care of me later on. So he got a bunch of fucking cases of packing tape in, so I load my tape gun, I go to put the thing on the end of the box and pull it, and it's flying all the way down the thing. I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this? There's no sticky side to the tape. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I pull that roll off, reach in the box, pull out another one, same shit. Open another box, figuring, all right, maybe there's one bad case. No, they're all bad. So I'm like, all right, I got these orders I got to ship out. So I go, I need packing tape. He goes, I just got you 20 cases. I said, here, look at this. Doesn't stick. What am I supposed to do? Can't you make it work? I'm like, how am I supposed to make this fucking work? It's shiny on both sides. So I said, look, I got about $5,000 worth of shit that's supposed to be UPS'd out of here. I said, your call, dude. You're going to have to send somebody out and get me a case of packing tape or else it ain't going to happen. So he did, and inevitably, he basically threw those cases of tape into an auction and probably fucked somebody else. But yeah, it was a great deal. He couldn't pass it up. So, you know, that's that thing, you know, talking about Norm. But, you know, going back to, you know, the Faces of Death, I guess somebody Blu-rayed it or something, or tried to Blu-ray it, but that's the other thing, too. You can't even sell this shit on some online sites. You can't sell it on eBay, I know that. You know, it's that weird, but, you know, the bottom line is it's all bullshit. You know, half the shit's made up, and some of this stuff, though, I've seen on other things it's not made up because they had, you know, footage from execution squads where the bodies are still twitching and shit like that. I mean, I guess there's a market for this, but to be honest with you, I'd rather stick to fucking fantasy and not reality because reality is bad enough as it is. And, you know, we had that little incident over last week about that submarine trying to go to the Titanic where it basically imploded or got crushed or whatever. And there was a lot of comments made on eBay, and a lot of people got really butthurt over these comments about, you know, something about, you know, picking on the rich and tragedies and things like that. Well, honestly, any death is a tragedy. But, you know, people were saying, you know, they were rich. Okay, here's the thing. If they weren't moneyed, and these people weren't rich, and that, you know, the whole thing wasn't in the public eye because rich people can afford to pay $250,000 to go on a fucking mini-sub. Yeah, it was a tragedy. But that same day, there were other tragedies involving other people that may have been as horrific or maybe more horrific than what happened to these people. But yet, their stories didn't make the news. Why? The simple reason they weren't rich and semi-famous. So maybe that's why the jokes are being made, because we're full of black humor anyhow, gallows humor. I mean, when the Challenger exploded, there was jokes all over the place with, you know, that woman astronaut, what color are her eyes? Blue. One blew this way, one blew that way. Same with the OJ murders. There was how many friggin' jokes after that. So what has really happened? Have we lost the ability to laugh at ourselves? I mean, okay, like I said, it was a tragedy, but other tragedies happened the same day that weren't acknowledged. So that's all I'm going to say on that. People wanted to get all butthurt on Facebook, and, you know, I did a couple things. I basically put a, okay, here's a mini-sub movie, Monster from the Ocean Floor. I took the clip where the little mini-sub, one-man sub, crashes into the octopus, one-eyed octopus's eye. And I said, that's what really happened. Okay, that's my humor with it. But, you know, let's talk about sub-movies. I'll get off that because there's no point in me belaboring. People are going to say and do what they want to do. But, you know something? Lighten the fuck up for a change. Like I said, if these people weren't rich, and also that CEO was a prick because he acknowledged he wasn't concerned about safety, and he actually tried to sell 2 reduced seats to 2 other people for $150,000 apiece. So, like I said, if it wasn't for the, you know, the amount of money and the notoriety, nobody would have gave a fuck. But being that they were rich, people actually, for some reason, give a fuck. And ignoring the other things that went on in the world at the same time. So, fuck it. But anyway, Monster from the Ocean Floor was a pretty spooky 50s, you know, creatures with a mini-sub thing. You know, it's early Corman produced, I think. Jonathan Hayes was in it. Directed by White Oregon, I believe. And there were some creepy moments in that film, like when the thing came out of the ocean at moonlight. That one shot, and then basically, you know, the bottom of the thing, okay, you know, the cheap mini sub in the aquarium, Rex goes through the monster's eye. You know, that's the first time I think I actually ever even saw, you know, the use of one of those one-man subs. And then you go into, I guess it was maybe, I don't know the exact date, between 63 and 65, there was a movie called Fantastic Voyage, starring Raquel Welch, Stephen Boyd, and Donald Pleasance. And the premise was that they basically shrunk, I'm going to say it was a four-man sub, maybe there was somebody else in it that I can't remember, but they shrunk a four-man sub and its crew down to microscopic size and injected it into this guy's body because there was something with his brain they had to fix. So, you know, they're in this four-man sub and they're going through the body and stuff like that. And then it wound up that Donald Pleasance was the bad guy and the sub would only stay small for a certain amount of time. And as it grew, it was attacked by antibodies, and then Donald Pleasance got eaten by antibodies, and the other ones got out somehow by being cried out in a tear duct. And, you know, there's another one, I'm trying to think of other movies with mini-subs, monster movies and stuff, and those are the only two I can really think of. And there's another weird segue because, you know, Raquel Welch co-starred with Stephen Boyd, who unfortunately left us way too early. I think he was only 50-something when he died. But you go to the Raquel Welch Western, Haney Calder, and there's a scene where Christopher Lee's being a gunsmith, and this guy just shows up out of nowhere and wants a gun fixed, and then he rides off, and then he reappears at the end of the movie and shoots the knife out of Ernest Borgnine's hand that was basically going to throw it and hit Haney in the back, and it makes it a fair gunfight. And then she rides off with him, and it was an uncredited Stephen Boyd. So I thought that was a cool little segue. But you know, like I said, we got to lighten up. It's bullshit what goes on, and like I said, any tragedy is a tragedy, no matter how you look at it, whether you're rich or poor. You know, there's tragic deaths that happen, and if me making light of it, you know, piss people off, well, I'm sorry, fuck you too. I really, you know, I say what I want to say in this world, and it's like I said, you know, the money thing sticks out in the forefront. So, but I could care less right about now. I just wish everybody would just lighten up. Let's start the week off right, you know, and I'll think of some other cool shit to come up with because I was watching, well, I can keep going, what the fuck. Charles Bronson, Breakheart Pass. I completely forgot about this movie. And I must have been like really shit-faced when I saw it in the drive-in because I can't remember a fucking thing about it. But here you got Charles Bronson, Richard Crenna, Charles Dorning, David Huddleston, Ed Lauder, Roy Jensen, Bill McKinney, and of course, his wife. So, they're on a train. He's a bad guy, supposedly a bad guy, and he's arrested by Sheriff Ben Johnson. And this train is supposed to be going to this fort where everybody's suffering from diphtheria and they're bringing medical supplies. Well, all of a sudden, the doctor, played by David Huddleston, turns up dead. And the fireman gets tossed off the train. And people are dying left and right. And you're wondering who the fuck it is. Well, in this instance, all the people you thought were the good guys, like Ben Johnson, Richard Crenna, Roy Jensen, Charles Durning, are all bad guys trying to smuggle these guns up to this fort that has basically been taken over by outlaws that are going to sell the guns to the Indians. So that's how it pans out. So that was one of these weird things that all is not what it seems. And it just was like weird to see basically people who were playing, you know, like straight, you know, usually played good guys, all of a sudden they're playing heavies. And, Jill Ireland, I'm sorry, I don't know why I got a brain fart with that. That was Charles Bronson's wife. She was basically in there for, I guess, because Charlie got a starring role in the film. I don't know. She was pretty much just window dressing there because, you know, she was only in it for a couple brief scenes. So, but I guess that was one of Charles' prerequisites. You know, you hire me, you hire Jill in some way, shape, or form. So, which, hey, shows the guy loved his wife and didn't want to be without her. So, all right, I'll wrap it up. That's our show for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back with more mayhem and nonsense in the middle of the week. So until then, stay cool.